He left to the sound of silence, dragging what was left of his image behind him. Prince Harry thought The View would be just another safe stop on his redemption tour. Another set of soft questions, polite nods, and crafted talking points. But the second Joy Behar opened her mouth, the air shifted. This wasn't a conversation. This was a confrontation, and by the time it was over, America saw a side of Harry they'd never seen before, and maybe never wanted to. What unfolded on live television wasn't just awkward. It was explosive. A royal meltdown, triggered not by scandal but by questions he couldn't answer. And here's the twist. Joy didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult him. All she did was refuse to be impressed. Before we unpack the brutal exchange, that left Harry storming off the stage furious, exposed, and utterly unprepared. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you think Joy Behar went too far? Or was this the moment Prince Harry finally got a taste of real accountability? The cameras were rolling. The stage lights softened every wrinkle and shadow. And backstage, the producers of The View were practically buzzing. They'd landed the get of the season, Prince Harry himself, to them. This was a surefire win. Harry was in the midst of another American media run promoting his latest cause, polishing his personal brand, and offering just enough vulnerability to keep the headlines churning. They expected charm, carefully crafted soundbites, and the same gentle grace he'd shown on other talk shows. He was, after all, the royal who'd escaped, the prince who traded palaces for palm trees and protocol for podcasts. America loved that story. They ate it up. And Harry? He walked onto that set wearing confidence like a second skin. Perfectly tailored suit, relaxed smile, eyes trained on the crowd like a man who knew exactly how to work a room. His media training was flawless. His answers had been rehearsed, his role familiar. What he didn't expect, what no one expected, was that Joy Behar wasn't playing along. While the other hosts prepped their cue cards with friendly questions about family, life, and philanthropy, Joy was stewing. She had watched Harry's transformation with growing skepticism, the way he called out his royal roots while cashing in on them, the polished way he spoke of suffering from behind the gates of million-dollar estates. She saw the contradiction. She saw the performance, and she was ready to call it out. The audience clapped as Whoopi introduced him, and Harry settled into his seat like it was his throne. The early questions came soft and slow. Life in California, his kids, his passions. He responded smoothly, switching between heartfelt and humble with a masterful touch. It was everything his team could have hoped for. But as Joy leaned forward in her chair, eyes narrowed, tone sharpening, the entire energy in the room shifted. Something was coming. Harry didn't know it yet. But the fairy tale lighting was about to flicker, and what followed would shake everything he thought he had under control. And just when things seemed perfectly scripted, the first crack split wide open. It started with a question. Joy Behar didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a scene, but the moment she opened her mouth, the atmosphere turned from friendly to electric. "Harry," she said, leaning forward just enough to cut through the staged warmth of the set. "You talk a lot about breaking free, about finding your voice, living your truth outside of the royal institution. But let me ask you this, doesn't it seem a little convenient? You left the monarchy but not the privilege. You criticize the crown, yet you're still very much wearing it." The room fell into a hush. Not total silence, more like that sharp intake of breath when an audience senses something real has just broken through the script. For a fraction of a second, Harry froze. His polished smile flickered, and the practiced composure in his eyes gave way to something raw, something human. But he recovered quickly. "Well, Joy," he began, voice calm but slightly clipped, "that's a bit of an oversimplification, don't you think? My experiences, both the good and the painful, shaped who I am. I'm just trying to use my platform to create real change." It was a safe answer. But it didn't land, because Joy wasn't looking for charm. She was looking for truth. "Sure," she replied, her tone unwavering. "But let's be honest. That platform you're talking about, it exists because you were born into royalty. If you were just Harry from Surrey, would Netflix still write you a check with that many zeros? Would book publishers line up? Would anyone be listening?" The other hosts shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Haynes darted a glance toward the producers. Whoopi's smile tightened. Even the audience, sensing tension, started to murmur. This wasn't the interview they'd expected. And Harry, he was starting to feel it. The flush creeping into his cheeks, the faint twitch of his jaw. "I think that's a very cynical way to look at it," he said, his voice edging toward defense. "Yes, I was born into a family with global visibility, but that doesn't mean I haven't faced real trauma, real pressure. I lost my mother." Joy didn't flinch. If anything, her eyes sharpened. "I'm not minimizing your loss, Harry," she said. "Losing a parent is tragic, no matter who you are. But millions of people lose their parents, and they don't get Netflix deals to talk about it. They don't get book tours and global sympathy. They get a bill for the funeral, and a few days off work if they're lucky. Her words cut through the studio like a razor. There was no cruelty in her tone's brutal clarity, and that made it hit even harder. Tari opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable, gripping the arms of his chair like he needed something to hold on to. Joy continued, her voice still calm, but with the unmistakable sharpness of someone who had drawn blood and knew it. You keep saying you've broken free, but you're still using the title, still taking the perks, still building a brand off the institution you supposedly left behind. So which is it, Harry? Are you the victim of the royal machine, or are you the product of it? That line didn't just hang in the air, it pressed down on the room like a weight. Harry's expression hardened. His smile was gone now, replaced by something tighter, sharper, defensive, but he didn't know it yet. This was only the beginning. By now, the atmosphere on set was suffocating. Every breath felt heavier. The polished rhythm of daytime television had been broken, and in its place, hosts stayed quiet, visibly uneasy, unsure whether to jump in or let it play out. The audience, dead silent. Not out of disinterest, out of disbelief and joy. Casually, but voice sharp as glass. You stepped away from royal life to protect your family's privacy, but you've done more interviews than any royal ever has. Your face is on book covers. Your voice is in documentaries. You say you want distance, but you're everywhere. What part of that is stepping away? Harry blinked slowly, searching for the line that might shut this down without setting off more alarms. I've simply chosen to speak my truth, he said carefully, the tone starting to feel rehearsed. I think everyone deserves to tell their story. Silence only enables pain to fester. Joy leaned in, her eyebrow arched. Sure, but when? Your truth includes private family conversations, accusations with no receipts, and a media tour that looks more like a rebranding campaign. Can you really call it healing? His fingers twitched, his jaw tightened. And his media training, so smooth, so reliable, was beginning to crumble. Then came the shift, the one Joy had been waiting for. She went in for the wound. Let's talk about your wife for a second. Glances, but she didn't flinch. She joined the royal family, stayed for 2 years? And now suddenly the trauma runs so deep she needs a podcast to unpack it. But she's still using the Duchess title, isn't she? Still launching lifestyle brands with that royal flair? So which is it? Was the crown toxic, or just useful? That did it? Harry's complexion changed, his face flushed from pale to red in an instant. Leave my wife out of this, he said tightly. His voice wasn't polished anymore. It was raw. Joy didn't blink. She's not off limits, she replied, calmly but firmly. If you're going to tell the world your family hurt her, if you're going to accuse people publicly without giving them the chance to respond, then yes, we're going to ask questions. I came here in good faith, Harry snapped. To talk about issues that matter, mental health, veterans, purpose. But all you want to do is pick apart my life. Joy raised her hand slightly. Harry, this is your life. This is the story you chose to sell to the world. If you don't want it questioned, maybe don't sell it. You could hear a pin drop. Across the table, Sarah Haynes finally tried to intervene. Maybe we can shift the conversation toward some of the positive work Harry's been involved in, but Harry wasn't listening anymore. He wasn't just shaken, he was unraveling. You think I haven't sacrificed anything? He said, voice rising. You think I walked away from all of that because it was easy? No, Joy cut in. I think you walked away from the responsibility but kept everything else. The blow landed hard, and Harry, stripped of his rehearsed persona, was no longer the reformed royal, cornered and coming apart at the seams, and, the worst part, the audience had stopped rooting for him. They were watching now with a different kind of curiosity, the kind that comes when a facade finally starts to crack wide open. But what came next made everything before look tame. Something had shifted irrevocably. The man who once charmed millions with his candid smile and casual humility now sat frozen, his composure hanging by a thread. Years of royal grooming, decades of media training, none of it could save him now, because Harry wasn't debating anymore. He was reacting, and The View had turned from a platform into a pressure cooker. Joy Behar leaned back slightly, arms still crossed, gaze steady, not gloating, not cruel, just relentlessly direct. So, let me ask again, she said. Are you a victim of the monarchy, or a brand built by it? Harry's lips parted as if to respond, but nothing came out. Then, like a dam bursting, his voice cracked through the silence. You people don't understand, he said sharply. You sit here talking like you know what it's like to live under a microscope. The scrutiny, the loss, The expectations? You have no idea what I've been through. The words echoed across the studio, loud, strained, defensive, and then came the phrase that would haunt him. You people. Joy's expression shifted slightly. Not dramatic, just knowing. She had heard it. So had everyone else. You people, huh? She repeated, tilting her head. So what are we, Harry? Commoners, civilians, peasants? Just the unwashed masses who aren't worthy of questioning a prince? Harry's eyes widened. He tried to walk it back. That's not what I meant, but it's what you said. Joy cut in, her voice cool but firm, and whether you meant it or not, it shows exactly how you see this conversation. Not as equals, but as a royal being challenged by the help. It was devastating. Not because it was loud, but because it was true. Harry shifted in his chair again, visibly rattled. His tone was no longer diplomatic, it was brittle, defensive, crumbling with each breath. You don't know what it's like to lose your mother in front of the entire world, he said. Louder now. To have cameras shoved in your face while you grieve, to grow up with your every move dissected. Joy's response came with surgical precision. No one's denying that was horrific, she said, her tone unusually soft but deadly precise. But millions of people lose their mothers. Millions of people grow up with grief. You had a palace, guards, private schools. Millions of people had nothing, and they still don't get to cry on camera and sign a book deal. Harry opened his mouth but couldn't respond, and Joy wasn't finished. You keep telling us you escaped a toxic institution, she continued, but you still use the title, still live off the name, still wear the costume when it suits you. So again, I ask, what did you really give up? He tried to answer. Really, he did. I gave up my family, he said finally, quietly. But it didn't land with sympathy. It landed with doubt. Joy's eyes narrowed. No, Harry, you didn't give them up. You broadcast them. You monetized them. You turned private conversations into international headlines. You pointed fingers without proof and called it truth. That's not letting go. That's cashing in. The crowd gasped. Harry's hands gripped the arms of his chair like they might hold him together. His breathing was heavier now. His voice shook. This is character assassination, he snapped. You brought me here to tear me down. Joy tilted her head again, calm as ever. No, Harry. I brought you here to ask questions. You're the one who came unprepared to answer them. Whoopi finally tried to interrupt, her voice gentle. Maybe we should steer this in a more productive direction, but it was too late, because at that moment, something in Harry snapped. He stood abruptly, pulled off his mic and tossed it onto the seat beside him. The metal clatter was louder than anything anyone had said so far. I don't need to sit here and take this, he spat. This isn't a conversation, it's an ambush. And that's when Joy delivered the line that would go viral before the cameras even stopped rolling. Running away, Harry, she said, not unkindly. Now that's very royal of you. The silence that followed was almost cinematic. Even the studio lights seemed too dim for a second. The hosts were frozen, the producers stunned. And Harry, still standing, looked like a man who expected someone, anyone, to step in and rescue him. But no one moved. No one apologized. No one reached for his hand, because in that moment it was clear. The crown didn't protect him here. The charm didn't work. The narrative didn't stick. And America was seeing something new. Something raw. Something ... real. But just when it felt like the storm had peaked, Joy hit him with one final question that left even the audience breathless. Harry stood there, frozen in the studio glare. No script. No handler. No exit strategy. Just a man stripped of his armor, sweating beneath stage lights. Mic discarded like the words he could no longer control. His chest rose and fell rapidly, a storm of disbelief and pride boiling just beneath the surface. He had stormed onto this stage expecting respect. What he got was reality. Joy didn't move, she didn't flinch. She sat still, calm, grounded, unbothered by the tantrum unraveling. In front of her, sit down, Harry, she said, her voice steady as stone. If you came here to speak your truth, then do it. But don't run just because someone finally asked you to explain it. The words hit like a slap, not because they were loud, but because they were true, brutally, undeniably true. Harry's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around at Whoopi, at the producers, at the silent crowd who had once clapped for him. He was searching for a lifeline, a cue, an ally, but no one reached out because by now everyone had seen it. The unraveling, the entitlement, the cracks in the reformed prince. What Joy had exposed wasn't just contradiction, it was conviction. And what Harry revealed wasn't just anger, it was entitlement in its purest form. I don't owe you anything, he finally said, his voice low, bitter. You don't understand what I've sacrificed. Joy's response came fast. Too fast for him to dodge? Really? Let's go down the list, she said. Did you give up your title? No, you're still the Duke of Sussex. Your wealth? No, you're richer than ever. Your platform? That's grown, not shrunk. Your privacy? You gave that up willingly for profit. Harry's face turned pale again, jaw clenched, fists at his sides. And then came the line that shattered what little illusion he had left. I gave up my family, he said, almost whispering now. But Joy wasn't letting it slide. No, Harry. You sold your family in interviews, in books, on streaming services. You took your pain and turned it into a business. And when the world didn't give you a standing ovation, you cried betrayal. He flinched audibly. His eyes darted downward, hands trembling. You don't know what they did to me, he said. Then tell us, Joy challenged. Tell us. Something specific. Not a vague feeling. Not another PR buzzword. Give us facts, dates, words, context, or stop asking us to carry your version of the story. But he couldn't, because the specifics might reveal something Harry wasn't ready to confront, that some of the damage was self-inflicted. I regret nothing, he muttered, the last fragments of his royal armor still clinging to his pride. Joy shook her head. That's the problem, Harry. You've built a brand on truth and healing, but there's no healing without reflection and no truth without accountability. The silence stretched, and then came the moment that sealed it all. With one last flash of wounded ego, Harry turned to leave again. But this time he added one final desperate blow. I don't need to take garbage from someone who's never accomplished anything real, he said coldly, throwing one last dagger toward Joy as he stepped away. The insult was childish, petty, transparent, and Joy. She smiled. There it is, she said softly but firmly. There's the real Harry, not the humanitarian, not the wounded healer. Just a bitter prince who thinks his birthright makes him untouchable. The cameras caught every second. His walk-off set, the dangling microphone, the flash of anger, the silence of his co-hosts, the quiet horror on Whoopi's face, the way Sarah Haynes looked down at her shoes like she couldn't bear to meet the audience's eyes. And then, finally, Joy turned to the camera.com composed and devastatingly clear. Well, she said with a faint smile, that was illuminating. Sometimes the truth doesn't come in soundbites or headlines. Sometimes it just walks off the set when it can't be controlled. Fade to black. And there you have it, the moment Prince Harry's carefully curated American image fell apart in real time. Not because of scandal, not because of lies, but because someone finally asked him to explain the contradictions he thought no one would dare challenge. What was supposed to be a media victory became a cautionary tale. Let us know what you think. Was Joy Behar out of line? Or did she simply ask the questions everyone else was too afraid to say out loud? Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more brutal honesty and celebrity truth bombs. Because in a world of perfectly filtered stories, sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones that weren't supposed to happen.